Imagine there is a oblivious non-being that is innocent on account of its nescience, that is just existing in the ether of non-existence, which is a kind of void-like state. And then it has been kidnapped and thrown into a disgusting meat body where it's going to grow up and experience all kinds of suffering. Perhaps this person has it real bad. And as opposed to just chilling in nothingness, which is probably the most natural state there is, um, it's going to have mental illness. It's going to have autoimmune diseases. It's going to live in a abusive household. It's going to lose its wife and children in a tragic car accident by way of sudden death on their part. And at the age of 37, he's going to get diagnosed with some kind of a terminal disease, and then he just takes his own life. And that's the life that he has to look forward to on account of the crime of taking this non-entity away from the oblivion of non-existence, which is probably preferable. In fact, it most definitely is preferable. Now, with that being said, even though this is the gravity of the situation, we are gaslit into the manipulation tactic by metaphysicians the world over that life is a gift from God, and regardless of our trials and tribulations, we must be grateful and say, let it be blessed. Because God is good, and He created you in spirit by an act of His will, and everything has been preordained, and you can't question it, because no matter how good or bad it is, it's God's plan. And the key word here, when it comes to spiritual Stockholm Syndrome and spiritual masochism alike, is the word gratitude. And even though we're taught to consider the word gratitude to be the apex of positivity, I consider gratitude to be a kind of dirty word. It's a kind of insulting vulgarity that is almost as bad as a ad hominem attack, especially when it's brought by way of unsolicited consultation, where you will complain to a friend about your woes in life only because they ask you how you're doing and you gave them an honest response. And then they say, you need to learn to practice gratitude. Now, I hear this a lot. People saying it so casually and so liberally. Gratitude this and gratitude that. But you might as well say, Garrett, I think you are a motherfucking bastard, and I hate you, and I hope you die, because you're just a piece of fucking shit if there ever was one. In fact, you're shittier than shit itself. Okay? I would rather you give me those sentence structures than tell me, just be grateful. I consider it to be an insult. On the contrary, what is there to be ungrateful for? Versus what is there to be grateful for? Okay? You can shit in one hand and hope in the other and see which one fills up faster, as the saying goes when it comes to this conundrum. Because when I think of the things in which I could be grateful for, those very things are at the expense of my hardcore labor in being able to barely support myself thereby. For example, we could say, oh, I'm grateful that I have food to eat. I'm grateful that I have a bed to sleep in, that I have a heating system in the winter and an air conditioning unit in the summer. And I'm grateful that I don't have diseases. But don't you think it's disgusting that all of these things that we could hypothetically be grateful for are basic livingness, mere survival, where base mandatory necessities are met? Because what if the reverse was true? Would I say, why instead of me being grateful that I have those things, that I am ungrateful that I have to work a disgusting slave job that I hate, where I make shit money, just to not even have enough fucking money, unless it's a dual income situation at best, to then say, oh, thank you. I'm so exhausted from working all day, and I'm so fucking depressed, at least I can go to sleep. Or I wake up and it's like, oh, I hate my life so much. I'm so depressed because of this existence that has me in this slave job that I hate, where I'm impoverished. But, at least I could have a budget and put a fucking pot pie in the microwave for 5 minutes and yum, yum, yum. Or, at least after it's all said and done, I could take a hot shower and a nice fat shit. What a wonderful world. I'm so grateful. We're supposed to be grateful just because we have a bed to sleep in and a pot to piss in. But in all actuality, so many of us can't even have that. For instance, I don't make enough money to financially support myself. So my situation is, it's not my bed that I sleep in. It's my father's bed. It's his house. He could kick me out and make me homeless any time. Everything is his property. I really don't own anything. So it's not my bed that I sleep in. It's my father's bed, even though it's my bedroom, and it's been so since my childhood. You know, it's not the pot that I piss in. It's my father's pot. The only thing I can really say that I have as my own is the food that I buy for myself. And is that really something to be grateful for? Why do I live in a world where um, I have to do all of this disgusting manual labor for shit money just to only have enough to be able to buy groceries? That's fucking stupid. You see what I mean? They're always telling you to be grateful because you have this, that, and the other thing. But all of those things, which is this, that, and the other thing, really just amounts to a bed to sleep in and a pot to piss in if you're able to financially support yourself. Or you're a financial burden and you get to sleep in your father's bed and piss in your father's pot. But regardless, I don't think that's really anything to be grateful for. It's not my fault that I'm in a body that requires food and has to urinate and defecate and has to have shelter to keep you safe from elements that are harsh. I didn't make those elements harsh. If I was to create a world, it wouldn't be in the tooth and claw state of nature where animals are trying to kill you and the elements are trying to make you overheat and or freeze to death and mosquitoes eating you alive and all that kind of stuff. I would make it so, you know, the weather's perfect and You have trees that grow their own beds for you to sleep in, or there's some kind of a natural landscape where just everything is provided and you can drink water without the fear of getting a parasite. You can pluck a tree right from the vine and you can just live off of that. But we live in a world where nature doesn't provide those things. It's because we live in a matrix and it wants nature to be as antagonistic as possible. Or even though you need water and you need food, in most landscapes, it's not going to provide those things. Even if you lived in a forest where you're surrounded by wildlife, you're really just going to be surrounded with ticks, snakes, and spiders, and a bunch of fucking pine trees that bear no fruit. And if you do find running water, it's going to be infested with fucking parasites, and you have to resort to bushman survivalistic type of behavior where you're going to have to put a fucking bow and arrow across the skull of a squirrel and roast it over a fire. And you're going to be too preoccupied worrying about survivalism. And it's miserable. We were miserable in the state of nature. So we invented civilization, and guess what? We're still fucking miserable. Probably even more miserable in this concrete jungle that we call civilization. So tell me exactly what it is that we're supposed to be grateful for. But here's the catch-22. If you say to somebody when they say you should be grateful, you say as a rebuttal that no, this is precisely for the reason that I am ungrateful towards whatever brought my sentience into existence to experience what it is that I'm supposed to be grateful for. I am not grateful for the fact that I have a bed. I am resentful for the fact that I have to sleep in the first place because I never asked to be alive. I am ungrateful that I have food because I never asked to have a body that's so exploitable and so high maintenance that it's the exploitability of how high maintenance it is that has enslaved me in the first place, so I can what? Be thankful to put something in my stomach because my body requires it. It's so stupid, right? This is the whole idea of gratitude is pretty fucking retarded if you ask me. To be grateful for what? Maybe the prisoner says, I'm grateful for this meal, and I'm grateful for this bed, and I'm grateful for shitting in this toilet. But at the end of the day, regardless of how grateful the prisoner is, he's still behind bars, he's still an inmate, he's still a fucking slave. But what we call civilization is really just a more luxurious prison. But really, our gratitude bears no more weight than the gratitude of a prisoner. Okay? I don't find there to be anything really to be grateful for. I could say, oh, I'm grateful that I have good health. But then again, why do I live in a world where I am held in suspense when it comes to the fear of ill befalling me at any moment, where there is over 600 known terrible diseases that can afflict us in so many ways, and those are just the ones that we know about. Over 600. Ridiculous. If you ask me, that number sounds short. I was expecting there to be tens of thousands. But that's what I've been told. And just because one of those diseases isn't unbecoming upon tormenting me, as it hypothetically would have, and I'm supposed to be grateful, how do I know that it's not going to fuck me in the ass in the future, huh? Statistically, it most probably will at some point. And then I can just be thankful, grateful, and blessed that I'm not stricken with some kind of a disease up until the point where I get stricken with one, and then what? Am I supposed to continue with my Stockholm syndrome, and am I supposed to continue thereafter with my spiritual masochism and say, well, even though I have this disease, I'm thankful that it's not terminal? Or, you see what I mean? Like, the whole gratitude dynamic is pretty disgusting. It makes me cringe. And even if there's somebody who is well off in like an upper middle class type of a situation, and they say, I'm thankful that God blessed me with this fucking 3-story house and this sports car and this trophy wife and all my children who have scholarships to these prestigious universities. It's like, yeah, good for you. But at what expense? You're essentially saying, well, you know, all of those billions of people in this world that are impoverished, that are homeless, that are starving in third world situations, I'm glad I'm not them. How fortunate I am to not be one of those dirty, unfortunate indigents who do not have the grace of God on their side. Okay? That's basically what they're saying. Okay? If anything, I would say that gratitude, if you're a philosophical pessimist, is really a vice. But irreverence and ingratitude is actually more of an honest and rational approach. Because if you were to think of all of the things that you are grateful for, you have to understand that you're just put in a situation where it is a obligation for your own survival to have those things. And they're not provided to you for free. They are provided to you by your own full-time enslavement and misery, just so you can get those kinds of facilities. And those facilities ain't even that great. It's just something that the body requires. If they could make you labor to breathe air, they would, but they can't. But they can make you labor, even though food and water and shelter is just as important as air, because it's a requirement for living. You have to be miserable and enslave yourself just to get that, and you're supposed to be thankful. Fuck you. Okay? I'm not grateful for too much of anything, to be honest with you. Because when you understand that this realm is a hellscape, to give claim to any type of a gratitude towards what the hellscape gives you, even though it's enslaving you and it's making you suffer thereby, is really just a form of masochism and Stockholm syndrome. Yes, we're all prisoners, and some people have a more luxurious cell than others, but at the end of the day, we are all prisoners here. And if you can't recognize that by now, then I don't know what kind of freight train has to smack you across the head to wake you the fuck up. Okay? There's nothing really to be grateful for. For example, my cat's sitting on my lap right now, he's purring, and I could say, well, I'm glad that I got such a little buddy to be my companion who's so much better than people. I love you, kitty kitty. And that could be a true statement. But is that gratitude? No, it's just me stating a fact where I say, uh, I find it preferable that I have this feline companion as opposed to not, and he's pretty cool. But if I was to say, well, I'm so grateful that, I don't have to take you to the vet and you're healthy and this, that, and the other, then I'm basically saying that we live in a world where at any time some kind of a kitty cat disease can befall you and you would suffer profoundly, and I wouldn't have the financial means to get you the aid that you deserve, and we'd have to put your poor ass to sleep. Poor kitty. And you see what I mean? I could say here's a better alternative to using the word gratitude. We could say I find it either preferable or unpreferable. For example, I find it preferable to not be homeless and have facilities and have food to eat. I find it preferable to have a part-time job where I have enough money to buy a little bit of shit. I find it preferable that I have this feline companion and he hasn't managed to escape my house and get eaten by a dog in the front yard. I find it preferable. I find a lot of things preferable. But can I honestly say that I am grateful for anything that this prison hellscape that has enslaved me on a bodily and spiritual level? Can I honestly give a claim to gratitude? And I would say no, because because it's just in bad taste to do so. Because when you realize that you're in a prison and you realize that the sensory integration of sentience itself is suffering, including yourself and the world at large, on such a profound level, you ought to just have nothing but hatred for the fact that it exists, and moreover for the fact that it continues to exist, and moreover that you're here to endure the nightmare of it with every second of your waking consciousness for 70 or more years. Fuck you. Oh, I'm supposed to thank my mother and father for not abusing me. Yeah, I find it preferable that they didn't abuse me, but I never fucking asked for them to drag me into this meat grinder against my will. You see what I mean? There's only that which is preferable, and there's that which is not preferable. I wouldn't even say that which is, quote, preferable is even good, let alone something to be grateful about. It's just preferable as opposed to the opposite. Because what am I supposed to say? Yeah, I find it preferable to have all these things. That's because if they were absent, then I would be fucked and shit out of luck, wouldn't I? I would have to resort to dumpster diving, panhandling, and sleeping on the hard pavement, where I'm probably going to get gang raped in the ass by a pack of wild tweakers. Wow, that's not preferable. But to have the contrary and have all of these things that honestly should be a human fucking right. I mean, to think that you're born into this world where nature and society enslaves you and is antagonistic towards you, but yet we can't say that shelter is a human right. It's something that is not even a guarantee. In fact, it's kind of an unlikelihood. Because technically, if you want to think about it, like, I'm fucking homeless. I can't financially support myself. And although I find it preferable that my father lets me live in my old childhood bedroom and he doesn't allow me to be homeless, like, I'm still in a way, like, kind of technically homeless. Because even though I'm living in a home, this is not my home. I don't own anything. Right? We live in a world where we talk about, quote, human rights. And in particular, the violation thereof. We say you can't perform corporal punishment on your kids because it's a violation of their human rights. It's cruel and unusual punishment. And your boss cannot smack your female coworker right on her sexy ass because that's harassment and it's a violation of human rights. And we have to let black people integrate in society, and we can't make them sit on the back of the bus and pick our cotton because that's a violation of human rights. And that is true. We recognize that, yes, in this world there are things that are considered cruel and unusual, and it is a violation of human rights. But what worth does the idea of human rights even have in the first place when food, water, and shelter does not come with the territory of the idea of a human fucking right? Or medical care. And this isn't a left or right issue. If you think it is, then again, you can get hit in the head with a fucking freight train and it's still not going to wake you up. This isn't an issue of left or right, because even though what I'm saying right now might sound a little bit left-leaning, I don't see it as a political or even a socialistic or communistic proposition. I'm just stating a fact that we speak in regards to human rights violation, where the very idea of human rights is basically null and void when food, water, and shelter and medical care is absent from the equation on account of just being born on the face of this earth. It's disgusting. It's horrible. And yet we're supposed to be grateful. Fuck that, man. You know what would make me grateful? If this world would stop being a hellhole. But that's never going to happen. And if something preferable was to come across me, where, let's say I get an unexpected inheritance and now I'm a multi-millionaire, and it's like, cool, I have a lot of financial freedom. I'd much rather have that type of financial freedom than be disgustingly impoverished like I am right now. That's preferable. That's cool. That's an upgrade. But at the end of the day, this world will always be a fucking hellscape. It will always be a prison. It will always be where sensory integration proper in the aggregate, in the sentience in question, will experience hardship and psychological anguish, emotional anguish, and physical anguish. Pain where the bad outweighs the good. And even if something beneficial happens to befall me, and now I'm living high on the hog, it doesn't take away from the statistical fact that in the aggregate things are fucked, and I will always be resentful towards this world and never be grateful. Even if I am well off in like an upper middle class situation by a hypothetical inheritance, I will still always recognize and have sensitivity for the fact that for the vast majority of people, this world is a fucking hellscape. And that makes it bad enough for me to always despise it, even if I happen to be well off. Think of how selfish that sounds when you say, oh, well, I'm so well off, and I'm so grateful, and I'm glad to be alive, and this whole sentient existence on a mass scale, whether animal or human, or even plant life for that matter, should continue just because I find it to be a benefit to me, and I'm glad to be alive because I'm so fucking awesome and I'm so rich, right? I could honestly say that if I was to become rich, I would find it preferable to be rich than to be poor for sure. But I would always fucking hate this world with every fiber of my being the exact same way that I do right now.